Welcome to Child Care Rockstar Radio. I am your host, Kris Murray. Child care leaders around the globe are breaking through challenges, leading the way in innovation, testing new best practices, and impacting children and families in a much more powerful and positive way than ever before. Each week, join me for interviews with early childhood leaders and experts that will leave you inspired to become the next child care rockstar. Now, let's go. This is episode 88 of Child Care Rockstar Radio, featuring Jim Dew. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Well, this is the first episode after the incredible Child Care Success Summit 2020, our virtual event, Child Care Reimagined, took place last week. And by all accounts, the feedback that we got, the transformations that took place, the case studies and stories that were shared about surviving an unprecedented year of a pandemic in our lifetimes. It was a very rich experience. It was real beyond belief. There were tears, there were virtual hugs, high fives, celebrations, and huge ahas and insights. We logged on our virtual event dashboard almost 1,000 ahas and insights from people that shared on the aha board. And that level of sharing was unprecedented. The level of engagement among attendees and the information that was shared by our 11 incredible sponsors was just surreal. And for me to be able to stand up there on the stage with event MC Jesse Malinowski, who we love so much. He's been with us for so many years on this event. And we danced, we shared, and we gave out prizes. But most of all, we transformed lives at this event. And I'm very just proud of my team and blessed and very grateful to the sponsors and to everybody that was there. So if you were there, thank you for showing up for yourself and your team, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as somebody in the early learning field who wants to get fired up and take it to the next level. And that's exactly what we did. And the highlight of my career, one of my big highlights of my career happened at this event, which was the ability to spend an incredible hour with Mr. Simon Sinek, one of my heroes. Interestingly, he was very humble, very doesn't want to be in the spotlight, very much wanting to make a difference for the world, but I will say he's a reluctant celebrity. and just so much fun. I was able to really interview him and pull back the layers a little bit to really get to know him better and just share all of the gold with people that didn't even know who Simon was before they showed up to the Child Care Reimagined event. We follow Simon a lot and we read all of his books and watch his videos in the Child Care Success Academy. And we share a lot of his philosophies and his teachings because it's the foundation of what I call my approach, which is confident, empathetic leadership, leading with confidence that you get from celebrating your own wins and changing your own mindset about your ability to lead and your worth and your value as a leader, showing up in a confident, really fun way, and people want to follow confident women and men who lead organizations to a higher level and a higher purpose, and sharing your cause and your why. And that's what Simon stands for. That was his very first platform. His big idea, if you will, was start with why. And it's the second most, I believe, TED Talk ever done in the entire world. Period, bar none. I don't know what the first one is. I'll have to go check it out. But he's in the top 5 for sure with his Start With Why TED Talk. So if you haven't watched that gem, you must go over to TED Talks and watch, just search up Simon Sinek, Start With Why. All right, let's dive into episode 88. So, and my final word about the event was just, again, gratitude and thanks to everybody that was there. We did make an invitation to join the Child Care Success Academy, and about 45 people have jumped into coaching with us. So we're very excited because we are approaching 260 woo, 260 early learning organizations in coaching and in this community and content network called the Child Care Success Academy. We are adding coaches to the team. We are adding a concierge for all our members. We're adding more value. We're adding team members. And in this age of COVID, almost 3/4 of our members stayed with us for another year, which speaks to the tribe. It speaks to the community. It speaks to the excellence. It speaks to the implementation focus of what we do in the academy, that we can retain that level of membership year over year and continue people on this incredible journey of elevation, their next life, their best business, their best life that they couldn't even have imagined before they met us and before they met me. So if you're interested in the academy, go to childcaresuccess.com and you can learn more. You can sign up for a strategy session with one of our coaches. You hear me talk about it all the time. If you want to learn more about that, you can listen to the prior episode, which was episode 87, the one right before this, with Coach Brian Dupre. And we talk about the wisdom and the approach of strategy sessions. And it's absolutely free and what you're going to get out of it. So there's no obligation and we want to help you. We just want to be of service. So excited to be serving 50 plus more members in the academy and almost 260. We're headed to 300, folks. So very, very excited for 2021 and what this world is going to bring. In the field of early learning, which if you look at the headlines, and every time I talk to people out in the media and in other industries, they're like, oh, the daycare industry got decimated. And I'm like, not so fast. Not so fast. We did not get decimated. We are open for business. We are serving essentials. We are serving communities and even everybody in our communities, not just essentials. And we are essential. We are the true heroes. You guys are the unsung heroes of this COVID crazy ass season. I'll say it. And so that's the story underlying the story that we are telling. We're trying to tell that story over and over again, because it's not just, daycares are closing. It's much more than that. And we are surviving and thriving in this group. So if you want that shot in the arm of positivity and you want a path to create assets in your business that work for you over and over again while you're sleeping, you got to learn more and jump in and learn more with us with a strategy session and join the academy. So, all right, let's tell you a little bit about our guest today here at episode 88. Double eights. 8 is a lucky number in the Asian culture, and I love 8s. And so I'm excited for episode 88. It's going to be very impactful. So we're going to dive in a minute. But before we do, I want to tell you a little bit more about Jim Du, my guest today. So Jim Du is the CEO of Du Wealth Management and the creator of the Functional Wealth Management Process. It's an innovative and strategic approach designed to maximize time, money, and freedom for entrepreneurs. He has 23 years of experience building high-functioning wealth management teams for entrepreneurs, and he has been featured in Inc., Entrepreneur, and Huffington Post magazines, as well as several other media. He is a sought-after speaker for stages, and he's an author. So you will learn about his book and how he can help organizations protect their wealth and help entrepreneurs specifically and business owners protect, manage, and grow their wealth. And we're going to dive into these ideas and give you specific strategies on today's podcast about how you can do all three of those things. I share with you a very personal story of almost not having wealth protected and how I turned that around. So, and Jim shares also a really valuable story about door-to-door sales of all things. So hopefully that has piqued your interest to stay tuned with us right here, right now at Child Care Rockstar Radio. Let's go. Welcome, everybody, back to the podcast. I am thrilled today to have as my guest Mr. Jim Dew of Dew Wealth. He is the founder and CEO. Jim, how's it going today?
It's great. Starting to cool off here in Scottsdale a little bit, and our clients all over the country, I'm starting to have bragging rights because we had a very hot summer.
Yes, you did. I was traveling in that direction and also in parts of California, and I've never experienced such a extreme level of heat. So I'm glad it's cooling off for you.
The oven was on broil this summer.
It really was. Tell us a little bit about what you do and where you're located.
Yeah. So as I said, we're in Scottsdale, Arizona. We build virtual family offices for entrepreneurs. I can elaborate on that a little bit. And these are entrepreneurs who generally, once they're making more than $1 million revenue, that's kind of our target. Hopefully I'll give ideas today that would apply to all entrepreneurs, but that's really who we work with.
Awesome. And Jim has come to our quarterly live meeting, and he's also been featured on some video training that I've done for our group, the Child Care Success Academy. And we utilize Dew Wealth here at the Child Care Success Company and myself personally. So wanted to bring you guys on the podcast today, a little bit of a different conversation with regard to financial and wealth building strategies and best practices. And Jim is perhaps best known as Mimi's husband. He's married to a very beautiful and fun and spirited woman, Mimi Dew, who I absolutely adore, and great team, great company. So thanks for being on the podcast, Jim, and taking the time.
My pleasure. I admire what you do and how you help your entrepreneurs as we try to help ours. And yeah, Mimi is spectacular. She's definitely my better three quarters, and I could live 1,000 more lives and not get so lucky to meet someone like her. So I'm lucky. I'm glad.
Sweet. Well, speaking of Mimi, tell us a little bit more about what you guys enjoy. You're at home, you're, there's no better person to be quarantined with, I suppose, and just enjoying life here in 2020. What do you guys like to do in your spare time, in your free time?
Yeah, so we're big into fitness, and I can thank Mimi in our 31 years since we met, 28 years married, in keeping me healthy and fit, because that's a huge part of her life, always has been. So of course, with the gym shutting down, it's been crazy. But in addition, we love to go hiking. We love to get outdoors. We love wine. We like to go to movies, although of course, all of that stuff's been challenged, or a lot of that stuff's been challenged. And we love hanging out with friends and other entrepreneurs and connecting in that way.
Awesome. Can you share with the audience a fun fact about yourself, Jim, that very few people might know?
Okay, so I'll share a fun fact not many people know. In between my first job, I was a public school math teacher. And in between that and starting in this career 25 or 26 years ago, I was finishing my MBA, and I did a stint for about 1.5 years selling water softeners door to door. So a lot of people don't know that. In fact, I have a story, come to think of it, I have a story that is a lesson for entrepreneurs from my experiences door-to-door sales, if I could tell that.
Yeah, please do.
So when I started in door-to-door sales, we had a sales manager, and his name was John, and he was 6'4", 280 pounds. And the only thing John had done his entire life, probably since he was 15 years old, was door-to-door sales. So he was hardcore door-to-door sales. And you had to go in and see John, Big John, once a week, and you had to bring in this report. And the report had all these things you had to put numbers in, like how many doors you knocked on, how many appointments, how many sales, all that kind of stuff. And so I go to see John the first time. I've been with this company for a week, and I hadn't been there very long. I had no sales, so I just left that box empty. And I go in, and he's this huge guy. He's like, "Jimmy, sit." I sit down. He goes, "You have your report?" "Yeah." So I give him the report. He looks at it. He slams it down on the desk. He takes one of his big fingers and he points to that empty box. And he goes, "Hey, what number goes in this box?" And as soon as I started to talk, he just interrupted me and said, "There's not room for a story in that box. There's room for a number. And if you give me the number, I already know the story." And the lesson right away is know your numbers. And a lot of entrepreneurs we meet don't really know their numbers. And you have to know your numbers to really be good at what you do, whether you're doing door-to-door sales or whether you're running a multi-million-dollar childcare center.
Jim, there's nothing more wise than what you just said. We actually just came off of our summit event. We did a virtual conference, and it was probably the best one we've ever done, which is a crazy thing, last week. And one of the big themes that was discussed and taught and then presented by our Rockstar panelists was a data-driven approach to your business. And data gives clarity. So what you just said is gold. It's pure gold, because when we meet coaching clients, that's the first thing we do is dig into what do they really know for sure. And there's no story that can fill in that box, right? And they go, well, I think, or I suppose, or I guess, or I estimate. And it's like, no. Like, what's the number? Exactly. So I love that you shared that.
It was a good lesson.
Yeah, little known fact, I actually sold door-to-door Rainbow vacuum systems, which is a fancy, I don't think they're still in business today, but it's a fancy like $900 vacuum cleaner that uses water as a filtration so that all the junk that normally would come out of your vacuum cleaner doesn't come out on the carpet, and it like picks up dust mites and all sorts of, so it's like a 10x level of clean. And for that level of clean, you spend $900 on a vacuum. So it's trying to sell those door to door. I mean, I can imagine water softeners, but selling $900 vacuum systems door to door was not easy. But that was great training for me when I was 22. So it sounds like we had a similar path.
I think if I could wish on everyone, and I wasn't in the military, my father was, but I would wish everyone, if they could, be in the military and do door to door sales. Because I think those two things, you get lessons you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah, good stuff. Thanks for sharing that. So diving into what you do in your company, tell us a little bit more about your approach. You have kind of a pie that has 3 slices in it, if you will. So talk to us more about those components of how you work with people and their wealth.
Sure. So I'd say the first thing I would tell any entrepreneur is there's 3 key outcomes you have to think about, or 3 things you really need to do to build wealth. And so the first is you need a compelling focus. Second, you need to do something called wealth discovered, which is finding where you're leaking money. Many entrepreneurs are making enough money to get seriously wealthy, but they don't know where all the money's going. So if you're saying, gee, it seems like I'm making a lot, but I'm not keeping a lot, that's that wealth discovered. And then the third thing is having impeccable infrastructure. So we build this family office structure for our entrepreneurs, which is really having your goals, a plan to reach those goals, and then the right people and the right processes to organize that infrastructure so you can get it done. So those are the 3 kind of key outcomes, or the key things I would tell the listeners to think about initially. And then on a more granular level, the 3 main areas where we're going to help coordinate the advice is in what we call protect, manage, and grow. So protect is moving from vulnerable to secure. Manage is moving from uncoordinated to worry-free. And grow is moving from incremental to exponential growth. So if I had to boil it down to its essence, once you have all those first 3 things done, is really you need to protect, manage, and grow your wealth.
So I think that many entrepreneurs, and I'm sure you find this, are so busy running their businesses, and the folks listening to this podcast running their child care centers and trying to build their empires, that they put personal protection of their wealth, like an estate plan, or the proper insurance levels, or any of that granular detail around financials and wealth. It kind of either it's a head in the sand mentality, or it's I'll get to it later. I don't have time because I'm just focused on running around trying to grow my business. So is that a common theme that you hear when you meet people?
It is. Yeah. We call those ostriches, which is easy to be an ostrich, but the results are usually poor. And that's where I hear entrepreneurs that say, look, I just am focused on building my business. Once I build the business, everything will take care of itself. But there's a lot of things you need to do along the way. It's almost like, Mimi and I were in Park City a couple months ago, and we climbed Pfeifferhorn with a friend of ours, Eric. And Eric is every bit of a 6'3" Viking. And he recently summited the Matterhorn. So he's like a big time climber, right? But he told us something on that climb. He said, professional mountain climbers get to the top by taking small steps, not big steps. Think about that lesson. So a lot of entrepreneurs don't realize that if you're taking small steps over a long period of time, your wealth gets dramatically better. But if you're not, you're ignoring it until you think, well, I'm just going to take some big leap in the future. It usually doesn't cut it. So I think it's one of those areas. It's almost like, getting your teeth cleaned or going to the dentist, right? You go, I'm too busy. I'll just put that off a couple of years. You're going to have bad results. And often when we see entrepreneurs, they're like the person that hasn't had their teeth cleaned in a couple of years. So this is something that requires good planning, a team being built around you, and then tweaking that team as you grow to make it more of a fit for you. So as you grow and get bigger, your team gets different to provide the value that you need. But I would say it's really critical to pay attention to this stuff. And often I see entrepreneurs, I call it the financial flat tire when I meet an entrepreneur, because often they'll pick up these different professionals over their lifetime. So I need an accountant. So they'll pick up an accountant or a bookkeeper or both. They'll pick up an insurance agent because they need auto and home and they need business insurance. They'll pick up an attorney to do a trust or a will. They'll maybe get an investment advisor to put some money in some funds or something like that. And by the time we see it, this I'd call this wheel that's wonky, because all these professionals, guess what? They're not all A players all the time. They're not collaborating on your goals and your situation. And the worst part is the entrepreneur ends up in the middle of this wonky wheel trying to manage all these professionals when they're not speaking the languages of tax, legal, insurance, and investment. They're not fluent in those languages. So it's really just kind of being neglected. And so what we like is we call it the functional wealth wheel, where you have a wealth manager in the middle who knows how to build these high functioning teams. That wealth manager will evaluate all the professionals in tax, legal, insurance, and investments and make sure you've got A players. And sometimes they're C players or A players doing C work that they're just not being held accountable. And then that way, if you can envision a wheel, you're not the hub, you're like the pedal. And if you're the pedal as the entrepreneur, you can move this wheel effortlessly, but you're not in the middle of coordinating all this stuff. And you shouldn't be in the middle of coordinating all that stuff.
That is extremely powerful. And that approach, has really worked with me, working with you guys over the last year, freeing myself up from being the hub, because I'm already over scheduled and have too many people coming at me to try to get on my calendar, and managing now a team of 18 people. So I can't tell you, Jim, how freeing it has been to release myself from the role of hub and just be the pedal. So for anybody listening to this who has a business of $1 million or more, which is many of our audience, you guys really need to start thinking about having a strategy to have somebody coordinate your wealth team, and really integrate the conversations and have those language skills. Because I'm not a pro at insurance. I'm not a pro at legal stuff. I'm not a pro at estate planning. So having somebody come in, I liken it to kind of when you're working with a coach or a mastermind group, and you've got 3 sets of eyeballs or 20 sets of eyeballs on your business, looking at your business, and you're in here inside the blinders, and then people who are experts can open those blinders up and see what you don't see, and they know what you don't know or even know to ask. So that's what you guys have done for me. And I really, it's been a really, very, very great approach to helping me, again, release myself from that role.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Kris.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know I don't want any listener to think that's an endorsement of us. You
No.
want to do research, of course. However, I would say that one of the things that we get commented on by our clients a lot is something we call the time energy shield. And that is that we protect our entrepreneurs from other professionals' pitches and projects that eat up the entrepreneur's time. And sometimes I'll meet entrepreneurs that go, I'm not spending any time on that anyway, so I'm not sure it's going to save me time. But what we find out is that even though they're not spending time on it, they're thinking about it. So it becomes in the back of their mind this thing that whether they're about to get on a plane or whether they get their tax return and they look how much they're paying in taxes or whatever it might be in all these different areas when insurance comes up for renewal. But there's energy that gets sucked out of you every time you're like, am I really handling that in the right way? Do I have the right professionals? Do they have my back? Am I missing opportunities? Am I making mistakes? Am I paying too much in taxes? What is going on with all these areas? So even if you're not spending time, if you're spending a lot of time on this, it can save you a ton of time to do building your business and spend time with your family and do the things that you really want to do. But if you're not spending time, you're probably occupying your brain in some way without realizing it. And the stress and the worry about this kind of stuff. And really, we think that, having this type of thing put together. And as I said, we kind of took this model from a billionaire family, because guess what? Billionaires are not stressing out about am I paying too much in taxes? Is someone paying attention to the insurance, right? Because they build this team around them. They happen to hire them as employees, full-time employees. That's why the billionaire model, you usually need about $300 million before you can build your own family office. And of course, our goal was to build that for entrepreneurs that are doing more than $1 million in revenue and need the same help, but just aren't at that asset level where they can build it out themselves.
Exactly. So this is the concept of the family wealth office. And so let's dig into that a little bit more with this story about when you saw that billionaires had this capability and this service so that they were sleeping fine at night because they knew that they had all the protection. So dive into that a little bit more. How, tell that story a little bit more deeply, if you will.
Absolutely. So we'll take each one individually. So under protect, there's really three main categories of protect. And one we already covered, which I call the time energy shield, which is just protecting the entrepreneur's time and energy. But there's also asset protection under protect. And that's having a plan so your assets can't be taken from a lawsuit. And that can be as basic as the right liability coverages, both commercial and personal. And I'll just give a caveat on that. A lot of entrepreneurs, they like their agent and they look at the quotes and it seems reasonable and they renew the policies. But really you need an expert to dig into those policies and look at things like exclusions. We recently saw a client that has under their employee practices liability. It says specifically that if the owner contributes in any way to the consumption of alcohol, there is no coverage. Well, so we asked the entrepreneur, do you ever throw parties or do anything? And they said, yeah, we throw a holiday party every year. Are people drinking? Yeah, we actually give out drink tickets at the place we go to for them to have drinks. Right. So not only do you want to have Uber cards passed out and do all those things to mitigate risk, but you also want to make sure that your insurance covers you in case you get sued. So making sure you have the right insurance coverages on a basic level, and then all the way up to advanced entity and trust design for protection. The other piece of protection would be wealth transfer. So if you have kids, making sure that your wealth transfer plan provides opportunities, but doesn't ruin them, because I've seen money ruin a lot of kids and grandkids. Mm-hmm. And then in addition to that, making sure their corporate documents are set up correctly. So if you get sick or injured, the right people or the right person steps into your shoes. So when you get better, your business isn't just totally obliterated. And then also, I believe entrepreneurs have great wisdom. So documenting your wisdom through stories and videos that you can put in a lockbox for future generations. So that's what just some ideas under protect.
That's cool. What about some ideas under the manage umbrella? What do you have there?
Yeah, so manage, the first most important thing is that wealth wheel I talked about. But I'd also say business value when it comes to managing your business value, because most entrepreneurs, a majority of your net worth, and it's true of me too, is in your business. So making sure you're managing that business value. So there are things that you can do to make your business more valuable to other buyers. And whether you think you're going to sell or not, that's important, because a lot of those same things that you do to increase your business value also improve your lifestyle. For example, a business less dependent on the owner is more valuable. And guess what? That means you can go to Europe and not check your cell phone, right? So some of those things are true. And every entrepreneur needs a monetization strategy, because you will leave your business. You will exit your business, whether it's because you sell to a strategic or financial buyer, you sell to your employees, you give it to your kids, it fails because of competition, you die or get disabled. There will be a moment you exit your business, and thinking way ahead of that to make sure that you're doing smart tax and asset protection planning so that when you get to that exit, you're going to have the best possible outcome for you. So those are a couple things on manage that I think are really important to consider. Mm-hmm.
So with regard to that, I just, my personal share on this is that I recently, you Do Wealth helped me facilitate a employee stock ownership plan. So I'm very excited. I was very excited to launch this on October 1st to my employees, and they were over the moon excited about it. So it's a very cool thing with regard to both exit strategy and with regard to incentivizing your employees to be more motivated to grow the company, because now they actually own a piece of it. So I just wanted to mention that to the listeners as well, because I don't think a lot of people in general know about ESOPs, and having that capability to give back to my employees was hugely powerful. And for childcare centers, they're always looking for strategies for staff retention and for helping get their people more bought in to the vision and where they're headed with regard to, being employed by this company. And so I just think the employee stock ownership plan product, that process. It's not the most simple process in the world. So you definitely need experts to help you execute it, but it can be a huge game changer for your preschool. So I just wanted to mention that. Having just gone through it, and we're really excited because the employees are on fire. My employees are just super excited about it. So loving that.
So when it comes to ESOPs, and the first thing, anything I talk about today, you want to have a team. I'm not an attorney or a CPA, so you want to have a team of tax and legal experts and other experts on the team. Yeah. The ESOP is a really interesting strategy. So the ESOP turns your company into a tax-free entity in perpetuity. And it can have great benefits to the employees as far as retention and as far as their just being excited about working and contributing to the business, because now they're tied in. ESOP, depending on how you do it, you can do the ESOP so that you still maintain control and run your business. It's not like the employees can walk into your office and ask for the P&L and the financials. Right. Because they're non-voting shares. They have no control. They have no input that way. And they've shown that ESOPs actually outperform their competitors in the industry. And it makes perfect sense. Really, I'd say two reasons. Number one, they're creating all this tax-free income internally in the company because it's not paying taxes anymore. And the other thing is, and maybe more important, is that the employees now, you can imagine if as this company grows and the longer you're with this company, your ownership piece grows. And then it's also a great way, depending on the situation, but it can be a great way for the business owner to take money off of the table and get paid out. So you're selling your business, you're getting a payout on that sale while still running and controlling your business. So for entrepreneurs that say, I don't want to sell it and then work for somebody else, and then I have to leave, and then they ruin what I've created. The ESOP allows you to keep what you've created, brings your employees in, it gets you paid out because you get paid the entire value of the company, often in 6 or 7 years from the tax savings that would have been paid to the government. So it can be a really interesting and useful strategy. And of course, you don't ever want to do random acts of wealth planning where you just go, I'll run out and do an ESOP. That's why you need all these things built where someone knows everything going on with you before you can investigate ESOP. I know we didn't come to you, Kris, and go, hey, let's do an ESOP, and we learned about you and everything that was going on. And we said, hey, this is an option. And we started bringing experts who do these types of structures and then vetting them and talking to you and that kind of stuff. So that needs to be the process. Don't jump ahead. Remember the small steps. Don't take a leap to get to the summit. And then all of a sudden you crash and burn because you think because the ESOPs aren't for everybody.
Absolutely. And right now what's going on in the childcare space is that private equity is coming in big time and people are selling for really attractive multiples. So if the exit strategy is just a pure, sale of your company to whether it's a private equity firm or a smaller firm that's trying to grow by gobbling up more locations, which is kind of going on right now because it's a very stable business. So we're seeing sales happening of businesses in the 5 to 7x multiple. So it's a hot market right now. So maybe ESOP isn't the strategy you want to go for, but for me, it made sense. And I'm really excited about it. So with regard, the final kind of quadrant of the pie, or the third of the pie, is the grow aspect. So I'm assuming that family wealth offices are also helping with investments and some guidance there if the entrepreneur is looking for that, right?
Absolutely. So the first thing that I always talk about in growth is tax planning. You need an annually updated, implemented tax plan because taxes is one of the biggest things. And remember, tax avoidance is legal, tax evasion is not. So doing things legally that you can reduce your taxes, but often there's all kinds of things that entrepreneurs are not doing that they could do. If they own a building, they could do a cost segregation study to accelerate depreciation. If they own their own home, they can use something called the Augusta Rule or 280A, where they can rent their home to the business for up to 14 days a year. It's tax deductible to the business, tax-free income to the individual. And we have entrepreneurs routinely that are saving $20,000 to $50,000 a year on that simple strategy, hiring your kids, more complicated things like ESOPs, or there's a lot of other strategies that you can use in your business because you're a business owner that are legal, that are in the IRS code. Of course, that doesn't mean that you don't want to have professionals helping you and be smart about how you implement these things, but I'd say tax planning is huge. Another piece is investing outside your business. So often entrepreneurs invest in their business, but you want to siphon money off and invest outside your business because you get rich by being concentrated in a business, but you stay rich by being diversified outside the business. And that's really in three areas: real estate, private equity, if you want to own parts of other companies, or stocks and bonds. You just want to have a smart strategy for doing that. Years ago, we decoupled. A lot of wealth management people either sell products and we don't sell products, or they get paid by having you invest money with them. And we thought that could be a conflict. So we decoupled that and said, look, that's an optional service for us anyway, because if you want to buy real estate, if you have your own investment advisor, if you want to do it yourself, we think that those entrepreneurs still need the family office structure, even without the investing piece. But I would say those are a couple of the big parts of grow: investing outside of your business in a smart way, not, taking everything out of your business and buying startups and putting it in cryptocurrency, but, reliable, predictable investments outside of your company is really important. And again, that can be things like real estate, and then also a tax planning strategy. Those would be a couple of the most important things under grow.
Awesome. So we've learned about family wealth offices. We've learned that billionaires use them. And this is a service that you and other people of your niche bring to us small baby entrepreneurs, I'll call us, 1 million plus. And the benefits of it, the three areas of the protect, manage, and grow, the head in the sand mentality, and why not to really be approaching your wealth that way. I mean, I was like that for a long time. Just I'll deal with it later, And my personal share on that is my dad, unfortunately, had an untimely death at the age of 63. We were at dinner on a Sunday night together, and then the next day he was gone. And he was in the process of finalizing his will, but even at 63, he had no estate, and I have two younger brothers and sisters that were with his next wife. And so I have, at the time they were 13 and 16, and nothing was provided for them, right? So this was a really, really sad family situation where lawyers jumped in. It got really ugly. I didn't talk to my brother for a Christmas. It was horrible. And I've told this story from stage before, if you guys know that story. But if my dad had had a will and an estate plan, it would have all been seamless. And because he had assets that were sizable, and even if you don't have sizable assets, you need to have that it documented. So I was bound and determined, Jim, not to repeat that mistake of my dad's. And then I met you guys, because I was like, I still don't have an estate plan. I even had no will post-divorce. I was like, I better get my stuff together here. So anyway, if you guys are listening to this and you have that angst and you have that, it can even make your stomach hurt if you think about it, and you need that. It's just, this is your wake-up call. This is your call to action personally from me, to say, get it working. And, whether or not you use something like a Do Wealth or you use whatever financial instruments, but pull the head out of the sand and let's get going on this thing, guys, because that is not a happy place to be. And I'm just thrilled to be sleeping at night and not have that, because my estate plan is now done and my children are provided for no matter what happens and all of that. So that was just my personal share. I needed to share that with our listeners. With regard to that, Jim, any lessons related to or not related to that? Anything you want to share as like a big lesson takeaway as we close the podcast for the listeners?
I love that story. It's a beautiful story and very heartfelt. And I'm glad you've come through the other side of that. One thing that I would say, and I'll just relate this to what happened during COVID. So when COVID hit, they closed all the gyms in Arizona, and my wife and I are really into working out and going to the gym, as I mentioned earlier. And I was kind of going crazy. And I know a personal trainer who said, Jim, I can get you in a private gym. There'll be nobody in there, but you got to hire me. And I said, I don't need a personal trainer. I've been going to the gym for 30 years. I know my way around a gym. I don't need a personal trainer. At least that's what I was thinking in my own mind. But what I realized is that's my only choice. I can't get in the gym without paying this guy. So I paid him and hired him. And 2 weeks later, a funny thing happened. I realized the last 2 weeks, I've had better workouts than the last 10 years. And what I realized is that he gave me a compelling focus. I didn't need to come up with my own compelling focus, but I realized when I was working with him that I wasn't in the gym with my earbuds in listening to podcasts, although I love your podcast. I wasn't talking to friends in the gym. I mean, he got me in there, boom, I was focused. So when it comes to stuff, sometimes people think they have to come up with this big vision and all this. You don't need to do that. If you hire the right guide, your guide will give you the compelling focus and say, based on what I know about you, based on your business, based on your person, this is your compelling focus. And then they hold you accountable. So sometimes they see entrepreneurs that they don't get started in this stuff because they're like, oh, I got to come up with all these things on my own. If you hire the right guide, it will take care of itself for you. And now I've got a personal trainer. I never thought I would pay one, but I'm like, even though I know my way around a gym, it's better with the personal trainer. And then I also realized I freed up my mind because I used to think, okay, what am I doing this week? What am I doing? Now I just show up and they tell me what to do. So it's freed my mind and I feel more creative and more at peace.
Fantastic. I love that. I'm also using a personal trainer. It's like small group workouts, and we had to stop for COVID, but I am back. So I started again on Monday, and I'm very, very excited and energized to be back and finally working on my physical strength and wellness again. So woohoo. I love the freeing up and I love the accountability piece. For me, accountability is everything. And then that consistency piece that you talked about. So I love, love, love that. Final question, anything you want to share with regard to what you're enjoying right now? Books, podcasts, what do you dig in? What do you want to share with the audience that might be cool?
Podcast, I really like Roland Fraser's Business Lunch. I like Joe Paul's Genius Network. I like EO Fire with JLD. Books, I'd say every entrepreneur needs to read my friend Keith Cunningham's book, The Road Less Stupid. It's a fabulous book. I'd plug my book in there. I actually think my book's a really good book for wealth management, Beyond a Million. And believe me, I'm not getting rich off the book, but I think that's a good book. I also think on a personal note, I'm reading Love Yourself, Like Your Life Depends on It.
Yeah, I read that.
It's really cool. Even just that sentence makes me think about the world a little bit differently. And then something that's for the general public, but I think really does apply to entrepreneurs is David Bach's book, Automatic Millionaire. He wrote it a long time ago, but getting entrepreneurs on a way of so that things are happening automatically so that a few years later go, wow, look at all the wealth I built. I didn't even think about it, like making those things automated. So that's a good book too.
Awesome. Those are great shares. A couple of them that you mentioned there are my faves as well. Roland Fraser, that guy, that guy is so smart. And every time I'm around him, it's like, okay, I want to start a new business. Let's buy more businesses. Let's do it. And then I'm like, settle down, stay focused. But so it's like a push pull for me. But it's just getting excited about entrepreneurship, and he's just so wicked smart. So I love that.
Roland's a good friend, and he is one of the smartest entrepreneurs I know. One thing that a lot of people may not know about Roland is he's an amazing human being. He's really kind and caring. And he has an amazing wife, Dawn, who's probably smarter than him.
Love it. Very cool. Well, how can people get in touch with you and find out more about you, Jim?
I'd say the best thing, and this actually is a 9-question quiz that you can take. So if you go to makerichreal.com, there's a 9-question quiz that will help you kind of see where you are in your wealth planning. That also gives an opportunity if you want to get on our drip list. Occasionally we'll send out information that we find is valuable. It's not a pitch. It's not like we're sending out pitching people all the time. It's just valuable information that may help you in your wealth planning. And then there's also an opportunity through that after you take the quiz if you want to get in touch with my office.
Cool. Love it. makerichreal.com. Very cool. All right. Well, thank you, Jim Dew, for being with us today here at Child Care Rockstar Radio. It's been a pleasure. And I know that the listeners have gotten a ton of writer-downers from this session. And just thank you so much. And give a hug to Mimi for me.
My pleasure, Kris. Great to see you and continued success.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Take care.
You too.
Thanks, everybody, for being with us here at the podcast. And we will talk to you next time. Bye-bye.